Within the last year or two, I've noticed how popular streaming has become. It's really becoming the most popular form of content creation. And there's really so many different types of streaming. You could be gaming, you could just be talking, you can have a whole setup, or you could just be doing nothing at all. And in just the first few months of 2025, people have nearly spent 30 billion hours watching this sort of live streaming content. TikTok Live has taken up a huge chunk of that. There's around 8 billion hours just spent on TikTok streams alone, and YouTube Live is pulling in even more than that. So live streaming isn't just a niche hobby anymore, it's become the main event, and it's quickly becoming the most popular pastime and content creation format. People love to watch, they like to interact with their favorite streamer, they like to comment, and I can't lie, I've also found myself watching streamers or at least seeing their clips on my feed. So many people probably watch this content without even realizing it. You can literally just open TikTok to unwind and end up watching a guy that's cooking dinner or somebody venting about their ex. And this isn't like reality TV where there's producers or plot twists. It's just people living their everyday life and being in the moment. We've gotten to this place where reality is performing for us and we don't even really question it anymore. And so I just want to talk about the way that we watch people, and not in that creepy peeking through the windows type of way, but in the very 2025 sense of watching strangers argue, confess, spiral, or completely fall apart, and then stitching those moments into our own entertainment cycle. Because lately, especially after what happened at the Coldplay concert in Boston, it's become impossible to ignore just how normalized voyeurism has become. We're really living in a time where everything from emotional vulnerability to total social collapse is treated like content. And whether it's Love Island contestants that are getting dumped live on TV or the CEO that's getting caught having an affair in front of 60,000 people, these aren't just isolated incidents, they're very viral moments, and they're audience bait. They can feel like plot lines, and what I'm noticing is how natural it feels and how eager we are to watch, judge, and comment on all of this stuff that's put in front of us. To me, this feels like it's voyeurism in a new rebranded way, and it really is everywhere. And when I use the term voyeurism throughout the essay, I'm not referring to its original sexual connotation, but to the broader cultural impulse to observe and then consume the private lives of others. What's up, YouTube? I'm tinysey, and if you're new here, welcome to the channel, and if you are returning, welcome back. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and welcome to my digital garden. More than 1 in 5 social media users say the main reason they open these apps is to watch live streams. And along with the usual scrollings and zoning out, we're now seeing that people actively watch other people live their lives in real time. In the first half of 2025, TikTok Live made up about 27% of all live stream watch time across all of the major platforms. And almost a third of people between the ages of 16 and 64 watch at least one live stream every single week. So nearly 1 in 3 people under 65 are regularly tuning into someone else's unscripted life. And 45% of users are willing to pay to watch live streams from their favorite creators. So if you watch things like Twitch, there's usually a subscription model where you can subscribe to their channel and be able to watch them without ads. So it's not always free, and a lot of people are subscribing, tipping, or simply just making live streams their favorite way to pass the time. Psychologists call this a parasocial relationship. I'm sure you guys have heard this term before. And it's that feeling of deep emotional connection to somebody that doesn't actually know who you are. This used to mostly pertain to a one-sided bond with a celebrity on TV, but now it's evolving into something that experts are calling a 1.5-sided relationship. Because now streamers can respond in real time and read your comments and say your name. And so those little interactions make it feel like it's something more than it used to be. This tiny bit of intimacy can blur the lines between fantasy and reality, and when those lines get blurred, things can get really messy, especially for creators who are expected to stay open and vulnerable and available to their viewers at all times. And a lot of the times these viewers feel as though they're owed something in return for giving them their attention or subscribing to their channel. And I can only imagine how hard this is to balance for people that are live stream creators. I'm not a live streamer, so I'm not completely sure, but there always is that struggle with creating boundaries with your viewer because you want to be personable and authentic while also having some sort of boundaries. But the increasingly ambiguous nature of these relationships is creating a perfect storm for this voyeuristic consumption that we're starting to see, because people aren't just watching, they're also participating, they're commenting, they're influencing, and they're becoming part of the narrative at play. But now I would say we're more collaborative voyeurs because of live streaming and because of how mixed this relationship is starting to become. And this all brings me to the moment that happened at the Coldplay concert in Boston. If you've been online even a little bit, I'm sure you've seen some of the clips and memes. There even were mascots that were reenacting the moment. And how big this whole moment has gotten really shows me how comfortable we have become with folding other people's lives into our entertainment cycle. I mean, this happens all the time, especially with celebrities and influencers, but this one just felt really random because I've never heard of this guy. Voyeurism has become our default setting for consuming drama, and Andy Bryan, CEO of a tech company called Astronomer, was caught on the kiss cam looking very cozy with Kristen Cabot, who was his company's head of HR. And the moment that they realized they were on the big screen, they panicked, and you could see them ducking down and trying to hide, but they already were caught. And then Chris Martin says they're either having an affair or they're just very shy, and he probably had no idea how on the dot he was. People were laughing in the moment because they didn't know who the guy was, just like me. But of course, somebody filmed it, and within hours, that clip was everywhere, and it became the entertainment of the week. And now I'm sure anyone that's thinking of cheating at a concert is going to think twice. And as we continue to consume all the juicy details of this CEO's personal life, his world and the world of those around him are starting to unravel in real time. So Brian has stepped down as CEO, and his wife Megan has stayed quiet while the internet has been busy breaking down the whole timeline and creating memes and assigning blame and waiting for her next move and her next statement, I guess. People have reacted to her removing Byron's last name, and it really showed me just how normal it's become to treat these moments like a reality TV show, like it's a plot twist and like every detail is our business. It's the perfect example of how normalized this kind of voyeurism has become and how easily we detach ourselves from the fact that these are actually real people with families and lives, and they're not just characters in a reality TV show that we're binging. But it also showed me how we're no longer just passive viewers. We like to dig and dissect and speculate, and we like to cast people into roles like villain or victim, and we do it so instinctively it feels almost like second nature. This kind of behavior started with parasocial relationships, but modern voyeurism has taken it further. We don't just watch the latest series unfold. We like to shape how they're talked about, how they're portrayed. We like to fuel them, and sometimes even try to steer the plot ourselves if we can. If you guys remember the whole couch guy moment back in 2021, there was a TikTok user that posted what she thought was going to be a wholesome video of her surprising her boyfriend at college, but to her surprise, that was not what everyone else saw when they looked at the video. And so people started to dissect every facial expression, every body language cue, and they said that he looked guilty and distant, and people built entire theories about infidelity off of that 15-second clip. The couple in the video ended up being doxxed, harassed, and then dragged into interviews, and the term couch guy got turned into a meme and a sort of symbol or code of red flags in a relationship. And I don't think any of it was really even confirmed.
I wonder if Couch Guy and Couch Girl are still together.
They are, and they're engaged now.
It all just spiraled from a 15-second video that people online decided had a hidden plot. And it's a perfect example of how this modern brand of voyeurism isn't just more intense, it has real life consequences for the people that are caught in the spotlight, even when they never asked to be. And yes, she posted the video, but again, she probably thought that it was an endearing video. If the CEO scandal represents the accidental voyeurism, then Love Island represents voyeurism as a business model, because the show has perfected the art of making human vulnerability into content. And its viewers have become increasingly sophisticated consumers of this sort of emotional trauma. And unlike most dating reality shows, which are recorded months in advance, maybe like The Bachelor, Love Island USA is actively filmed and edited while the season is still airing. So it creates this near real-time experience for the viewers. And this is creating what the show's producers call a live inside look into not just the nation's attitudes towards sexuality and dating, but who deserves to be on reality television. That last part is crucial because the show isn't just documenting the relationships, it's also crowdsourcing opinions about who deserves love, respect, and basic human dignity. I feel like season 7 has become a case study in voyeuristic excess because it required an anti-cyberbullying message ahead of the episodes, but they all still broke the viewership records. The more controversial and painful the content gets, the more people tune in, and the show generated record-breaking streaming audiences and a massive increase in social media engagement. There were so many TikTok sounds that came from Love Island USA season 7, and I didn't even know that's where it was coming from.
I'm a mommy.
Mommy?
I'm a mom.
Mamacita.
No, I'm a mommy.
Mom of what?
I think the viewers were drawn to the spectacle of people falling apart on camera, and the contestants have almost become involuntary subjects in a psychology experiment. One of the contestants, Vanna Einerson, broke down into tears because she read the comments about her physical appearance, and another contestant, Amy Hart from the UK version, also received death threats that were serious enough to warrant a testimony before Parliament. And the list honestly goes on. If you dig into Love Island and the history of cyberbullying and just the fallout from it all, there are harmful effects to going on this show and just the way that the audience treats you and bullies you after the show. I think the most telling was what happened to the contestants who were deemed problematic. Yulissa Escobar was removed after videos surfaced of her using racial slurs. Austin Shepard was eliminated after fans discovered hurtful content that he'd reposted. Sierra Ortega was sent home after an old Instagram post surfaced of her using an anti-Asian slur, and the show's audience really did become investigative voyeurs. They were digging through contestants' digital histories to find ammunition for their removal. They were researching the Islanders' entire lives and weaponizing old social media posts and demanding accountability for past behavior. This creates what you would call a toxic fandom. It's a form of parasocial relationship that becomes punitive and controlling. The viewers develop such strong one-sided relationships with the contestants that they feel entitled to police their behavior in the past as well as in the present. Sierra's experience in particular was revealing. After her removal, she says, "What's been extremely difficult is the way people are approaching my family and my loved ones. They have had ICE called on them. My family does not feel safe in their own home. I have received death threats." The voyeurism transcends the show itself. It becomes stalking, harassment, and real-world consequences for entire families. The viewers aren't content to just watch anymore. They also want to control, punish, and reshape the lives they are observing. And this shows how parasocial relationships and voyeurism are expanding beyond their original boundaries. As we get closer and closer to instant access to people's lives, whether through reality TV, live streams, or just viral moments, the more popular this kind of entertainment is becoming. But it's also becoming more toxic, and the line between watching and interfering gets blurrier every day, and the consequences for the people being watched are only getting more severe. Our obsession with watching other people live their lives isn't random, it's by design. The platforms that make money off of our attention have built entire ecosystems around voyeurism, and I think they've gotten really good at making it feel like it's just normal and fun entertainment. It really can feel like we're just being supportive or as though we're just staying informed by watching some of these videos. TikTok's algorithm is especially sneaky with it because it doesn't just track what videos you like, it also tracks how long you're pausing on a video where somebody's crying, ranting, or having a breakdown. And before you know it, your For You page can be filled with a bunch of the same kind of content. There's whole corners of TikTok that are basically functioning as voyeurism channels. I've seen breakdown TikTok where people are filming their panic attacks and their like super vulnerable moments. There's relationship drama TikTok where people are airing out their breakups in 20-part series. I mean, what was that one series that was so popular last year? I'll find it, but there was that series that literally took 4 hours to watch. There's financial ruin TikTok where people can talk about getting evicted or drowning in debt. And they all seem to have their own language and unspoken rules about what kind of vulnerability is okay to share or just how much is too much. And the more time we spend watching this sort of stuff, the more normalized and desensitized we become to people crying online or having breakdowns and just seeing people in this very like vulnerable state. And I think with live streaming in the mix, particularly on apps like Instagram or TikTok, there seems to be even less of a filter. There's no editing or time to think. And so that line between whether it's a performance or community building or voyeurism starts to really blur. And because there's also money in it, it's turning that emotional vulnerability into a revenue stream. So the more open and raw you are, the more people tune in. The more people tune in, the more pressure you start to feel to keep sharing or to go even deeper. And viewers say that they want realness, but what they really want is full access to you. And creators start to feel like they have to give up their privacy just to keep up with the times. And it's not just the content that draws us in, it's what happens in our brain while we're watching. What drives millions of us to spend billions of hours watching these strangers share the most intimate moments on TikTok live or reality TV or just through a video? One big reason is what psychologists call social comparison theory. We're wired to compare ourselves to others, and it helps us understand where we stand in terms of status, relationship, and emotional well-being. And in the past, that meant comparing ourselves to our neighbors or our coworkers, but now it's people on our screens. We're not just entertained, we're also taking notes. Watching how others handle stress, relationships, or crisis can feel like a social learning tool. Like I said in my last video with Gen Z and how they learn a lot of their social cues from being online. We now have access to this other format of learning, and it's not face-to-face anymore. It's by going on social media, going on your phone. You can gather so much data on how you're supposed to act, how you're supposed to talk, how you're supposed to walk. It really is overload, and we're getting addicted to it. Then there's something called emotional regulation through vicarious experience. Basically, when we see someone else process emotions, especially the difficult ones, it can help us also process our own. It's kind of like we're getting therapy by proxy, so we feel something without having to put ourselves at risk. The timing really does make a lot of sense because right now, 78% of Americans are reporting some level of anxiety because of housing costs, debt, inflation, climate crisis, just the political chaos. So watching someone else fall apart on social media or reality TV or through a live stream can be weirdly soothing. It's kind of messed up if you really think about it, but if they're breaking down, maybe we're doing okay by comparison. There's also a darker piece of it, and it's what researchers call moral licensing. And that's when people justify their behavior by convincing themselves that they're doing something good. So say you're the person that was digging through Sierra Ortega's past and you found that racist tweet, you would tell yourself that you're not being nosy, you're doing it for the greater good. Viewers have gotten really comfortable sending their comments, their advice, and their donations, and it can feel very virtuous. But honestly, at the end of the day, it still boils down to this addiction to voyeurism, and it kind of just got normalized. And we've definitely created a strange cycle where the more access we demand from creators, the more good we feel about giving them our attention, our likes, or our money. But we're also reinforcing the erosion of privacy in the name of entertainment. So we watch not only out of curiosity, but also biology, anxiety, and an entire digital ecosystem that's been carefully engineered to reward our worst impulses with entertainment. The human cost of our voyeuristic culture is getting harder to ignore because the people that we're watching are developing what researchers are calling digital trauma. And that is psychological damage specifically related to being observed, analyzed, and judged by strangers online. The Love Island contestants are reporting lasting anxiety about being perceived, difficulty forming relationships outside the public eye, and struggles with authentic emotional expression after being watched so intensely. A lot of the people that have gone on Love Island describe that they feel as though they've lost their sense of private self during and after the time on the show, and it's been no different with the contestants that are on season 7. The CEO scandal also shows how quickly voyeuristic consumption can upend the lives of people who never intended to be public figures. And yes, Andy Byron made careless choices, but the speed and scale at which his personal life became entertainment says a lot about the world that we live in. Content creators who build audiences through vulnerability often report what they call authenticity exhaustion, which is the emotional drain of constantly performing genuine emotions for audiences who consume their pain as entertainment. They describe feeling like they can't turn off the performance of being authentic without losing their livelihood. The psychological research is very clear on this, and being constantly observed changes behavior in lasting and often very negative ways. The observer effect isn't just a phenomenon that happens in physics, it also applies to human psychology as well. When people know they're being watched, they stop behaving naturally and they start to perform. I touched on this in my last video, but it definitely is worth repeating. Younger generations are feeling this very deeply, and a lot of them are afraid to show up as their full selves because of the looming presence of social media and the pressure of constant surveillance that's hanging over them. And something I didn't fully explore is how our collective voyeurism feeds into this fear that they have. We've normalized consuming other people's vulnerable moments to the point where we actually enjoy the chaos, the downfall, and the messiness of it all. And this has implications that extend far beyond individual creators. We're also creating a generation of young people who have never experienced privacy and have always been performing for an audience. They've learned to commodify their own vulnerability from such a young age, and the long-term mental health implications of growing up under this constant surveillance, whether that was voluntary or otherwise, are only just beginning to be understood. But what we do know from early research is that the psychological effects of being watched are similar to those experienced by people under authoritarian surveillance. There's increased anxiety, self-censorship, and difficulty forming authentic relationships. I don't think our voyeuristic culture is going to be slowing down anytime soon. In fact, there's new tech that's actually making it easier to peek in other people's lives in real time. We have virtual reality, which will immerse you in all of these experiences, and AI is getting very scarily good at figuring out which kinds of human vulnerability keep us watching. And we're finding that platforms are investing a lot in authentic content creation tools. That's basically tech that will help creators share more raw and personal real-time content. We're talking about better live streaming setups, more interactive features for the viewers, and a lot more ways to make money off of this emotional exposure. And at the same time, some of these platforms are starting to reckon with the toll that a lot of this stuff takes. They're trying out digital wellness tools, and they're offering creators mental health support and experimenting with ways to curb the more toxic side of parasocial relationships, but we still don't know if any of this actually solves the core issue. Honestly, we've built a system that runs on human vulnerability, and we've trained audiences to treat that vulnerability like binge-worthy content. If we just look at how Love Island audiences have evolved, they're not just passive watchers anymore, they're analyzing, they're investigating, and they're even influencing the outcomes. And viewers have become part of the narrative. They want to shape the story, and they don't just want to watch it unfold. That's probably why live streaming is so popular. And I honestly think that's where content creation is headed. It will be a future where the line between audience and participant keeps getting blurrier. There's probably going to be more direct influence, more live interactions, and more tools for judging and decoding behavior in real time. And this is what I've been dancing around this entire essay. It's almost impossible to avoid being complicit in this voyeuristic culture if you're on social media at all. And I'm definitely no better than anyone else that I've been analyzing. I've watched the breakdowns, I've lingered on the drama, and I've fallen down rabbit holes of strangers' relationship problems and justified it as trying to understand the situation. I see how the platforms make it nearly impossible to avoid this type of content. I think that's what makes this all so difficult, because we can recognize that voyeuristic consumption is problematic while still being unable to extract ourselves from it. The infrastructure of modern social media is designed to turn us all into watchers, and the psychological hooks are so sophisticated that even the awareness doesn't necessarily lead to different behavior. I can write this entire essay on the ethics of watching other people's pain and then immediately open Instagram and watch someone's mental health crisis play out in their stories. The hypocrisy is built into the system, and I don't think that means we should give up on being more thoughtful about how we consume other people's content. But I do think we need to be more honest about how difficult it is to change these patterns, even when we understand their harmful effects. I personally just want more awareness of when I'm doing it and more discomfort with my own impulses, and have more empathy for the people that I'm watching. The line between privacy and performance has almost completely dissolved, and everything is potential content. The CEO that was caught on the kiss cam and the Love Island contestants unraveling on national television represent two sides of the same phenomenon that we're observing. We've become a culture of watchers, and we've learned to justify our watching in ways that make us feel better about it. Probably can't escape this dynamic entirely. I just wonder if we can hold the complexity of feeling genuine connection through these parasocial relationships while acknowledging their limitations, or if we're even able to consume vulnerable content and still remember that there's a real person on the other side. So yeah, we're definitely not above it. We just need to be more aware. And that is all I have for today's video. What do you guys find yourself consuming on the regular? And if you made it this far in the video, please comment the eye emoji. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.